Good morning, guys. Welcome to the Fenced In podcast. Thank y'all for joining in today. Don't forget to like, subscribe, comment, and share for more content like this. Today, I am interviewing Brianna Mina. Thank you so much for coming on today, Brianna. We are so excited to have you on the Fenced In podcast. So go ahead and tell us, who are you? What is your story?
I'm Brianna Mina. I'm 38 years old. My life kind of took an abrupt turn that changed the course of my entire life. Um, so basically, starting from childhood, I was raised in like a military family. My dad ended up serving 24 years in the Air Force. So we've moved all over, been all over, went to like 13 different schools. So I've kind of had the upbringing of always having to like change and, you know, mingle with people and adapt and everything like that. So I naturally became more of like a people pleaser and trying to fit in and that sort of person. Um, a long time ago, when I was 16, 2 days before my 17th birthday, my parents actually shipped me off to have you ever seen that Netflix documentary called The Program?
No.
Yeah, so I was actually there, and I know the
Okay.
girls that were there. They shipped me off to Mexico, to Casa by the Sea, and then from there to Ogdensburg, New York, when they shut down during the riot.
Okay.
So I think that kind of set the precedence for what happened with my life. I'm not blaming anybody. I have, full accountability for what I did. But it's more of like, I think my whole life I just kept trying to fit in, trying to, and so I would always hang out with the wrong crowd and try to, they're more accepting than people who
Yeah.
have values and standards and goals and dreams and all these things, right? So,
Yeah.
um, for me, I think that that was kind of like a pre-lockup to the actual lockup. Um,
So tell me about the program because I'm not familiar. And so for anybody else that's not familiar with this school type thing that you went to in Mexico, talk to me for a minute about that. What was that like for you? How did you feel as a teenager being sent away? Like, what did that do to you and what was the environment?
Yeah, so I was really naive and I had a boyfriend at the time that I got sent away. And in my mind, I would think, oh, my boyfriend's gonna come and save me. He's gonna break me out of here. It
Hmm.
was a behavioral modification program for teenagers,
Okay.
for parents who felt like they couldn't continue to raise their own child anymore. I had done a lot of things like, probably a lot of people have, for anywhere from trying to commit suicide to cutting myself, sleeping with boys, trying drugs, drinking, sneaking out of the house, trying to run away, all these things. And so my parents felt like they couldn't raise me anymore. And so they spent like 40 grand a year for the 1 year that I was there to try to send me away and have somebody else do it, kind of like a boot camp.
Yeah.
And so it wasn't what they thought that it was, and there was a lot of abuse that went on, and we weren't allowed to like talk to our parents about it. And if we tried, they would hang up the phone, so we couldn't call home. We
What
couldn't
was the
always.
abuse?
The abuse was starving us, putting us in the intervention rooms, face down for hours with our hands out and legs out. There was molestation that happened with some people, not with me. But then it's more of like an emotional, physical abuse, or I'm sorry, emotional abuse. The physical abuse was more so on the boys' side. And so that they show very clearly, there's videos in that if you ever want to see it, it's on Netflix. But yeah, it's really, really intense and all of it's true. I actually got my documents sent to me at the very end. They said that they had gone and collected everybody's documents that were left behind when it closed down. And I have mine. I had them sent to me and I was like, oh my God, it was such a memory jogger to look back
Yeah.
through it.
So,
Um,
what did your parents say when they found out that this place that they sent you thinking it was going to fix your life was like an actual terrible thing?
So they think that they still made the best choice that they could make.
Mm.
And I have had to, because I'm a people pleaser and I always tried to, make my parents proud and they never were. Um, we we even now still, so I haven't spoken to my parents in 3 years.
Mm.
My family is really toxic. My brother and my sister, we don't speak. So I'm kind of like, I have children. We all talk. And it's not, well, except for my youngest. But I'm trying to break that chain. So kind of like the black sheep.
Yeah.
kind of thing. And now I'm kind of adjusting more to how I feel about it. And I do hold a lot of resentment because not because they did it, but because they still believe that that was the right thing. Even
Right.
after seeing the documentary come out, it's like I'm not the only one who said these things, you know, who
Right.
experienced it.
Right. Yeah, just at least acknowledge my pain. Like,
Right.
just
Right.
at least acknowledge, like, hey, we felt like we were doing the best thing at that time. Maybe it wasn't the best thing at that time,
Yep.
and we apologize. It
Yeah.
doesn't, how old are you?
38.
So I'm 41. So you're in that age range of parents that have a really hard time admitting faults.
Yes. Yes.
And now our generation of parents are typically the ones that are like, you know what, this ends with me. I'm breaking the cycle. I'm going to do some inner work. I'm going to do some spiritual work, and my kids aren't going to drink
Yeah.
from the same cup. So I hate that you had to experience that. But what happened next? So let's get into like the next phase.
Okay, so when I turned 18, I was able to check myself out. My parents created an exit plan, which meant that because I didn't finish the program, I didn't finish all the levels, then I was not allowed home. So I was given $30 and a bus ticket from Ogdensburg, New York, down to Florida. And I took it to get a cab to go to an old friend's house that I remember that I used because I've been working since I was 15. So she worked at the same restaurant I did, and I remembered where she lived. So I took it to her house and begged her and her husband to let me live with them and their kids and, just try to get on my feet. Because I wasn't allowed in the house, and they put all my stuff out at the end of their driveway. My parents did, and so we went and collected it, and they said it was fine. They helped me, and then I went and lived with another friend that worked at the same restaurant with her husband and her kids. And they helped co-sign on a car. I got a job at the Dollar General. I made third key, part management, and I was trying to work my way up. Um, I had only been out like 4.5 months, and I went to a party and I tried Coke for my very first and only time ever. I did 2 lines, but I had been drinking a ton of tequila on top of that. And I don't know if I was roofied or not, but I was raped that night. And so between that and a boyfriend that I had been dating with, I wasn't sure, I am now, but I wasn't sure because I got pregnant, so I wasn't sure who the father was. And that was not a very ideal situation. So I was going to try to, at 5 months, kind of give her up for adoption and go through that process. And then I just realized, I don't want to do that. I really, there were a couple of things that have happened that kind of triggered me that made me feel like I can do this. So I ended up deciding to keep her. Um, and through that process, I ended up meeting a gentleman that was in the military, and we got married after like 4.5 years of dating. 4.5 months of dating, sorry. And then we got pregnant with our second one, and then pregnant with our third one. I became a stay-at-home mom after working, and I had like written a book, but it's not really well known. It's like a mermaid kids book kind of thing. And so life just kind of happened. You're living, you're young, you're existing. He goes to Iraq. I'm dealing with the kids alone. I have a newborn, a 1-year-old, and a 2-year-old. I was,
Oof.
yeah, it was a lot.
Yeah.
I didn't feel like I had a whole lot of support. My family tried, but then they were the kind of family that always made you feel bad for helping. So it was like, oh yeah, sure, we'll watch them so you can have a little bit of a break. And then by the time you pick them up, it's like, oh God, why did you have to drop them off? That sort of thing. And so it just never really helped. I started to drink a little more, and that's kind of where it started. I'm not an alcoholic. I don't drink. It's just back then I did kind of use it as a coping mechanism because my husband was overseas and that whole thing. We ended up trying, so I had been with him for 5 years. And we were going through a divorce, because he's an abusive alcoholic. And I wanted to try to get out of that situation. So my best friend and I were looking up for a place to live. And she was going to go to night school to be a nurse, and I was going to go to day school. I didn't know what I wanted to do yet in life, but we were going to kind of work with each other on that, with taking care of each other's kids because she had one and I had three. I went out, I was working at Home Depot at the time, and I went out with my friends, and I lived paycheck to paycheck. I've always been that way my whole life. It's just how I've lived. And so I didn't have money to drink, and one of my guy friends told me, "Hey, I got you, I got you. You can get me back on the next check." And so they just kept coming. From there, we all drove in somebody else's car. I left my car at that spot, at the Ale House in Pensacola and Florida. and we all went in somebody else's car to a strip club. And then I got even more wasted. I really don't remember a lot of the evening. I just remember like chain smoking cigarettes and drinking and whatever. Then they took us back to our cars that were left in that parking lot at the ale house. So what I did is I remember texting a lot with my husband at the time, trying to, I don't know, we were like angry texting, you know how that goes
Yeah.
when you're going through it. And so my best friend said, why don't you sleep on my couch instead of driving home because you're really, you're really intoxicated. And she kept asking me and kept asking me. I swear it felt like 20 times. And I kept saying, no, no, I'm fine. I had a babysitter who was watching my kids at home so I could go out and I was supposed to be back by midnight. I lost track of time. It was like, I want to say one something in the morning or two something in the morning. I don't even know. And so I ended up getting in my van and taking off. And that's what set the course of what changed everybody's lives, like from here on out. So,
You're how old at that point?
gosh, I can't remember. It's like 25 or 26.
Okay. Okay.
Yeah.
So what happens next?
So, I headed down the main highway. I think it's Highway 90, and it's all kind of a blur. So, they say in the report that I was going 97 miles per hour.
Oof.
I fell asleep at the wheel and hit the car in front of me. And there were four people in that car, and one was not wearing his seatbelt. And he was the one that went through the dashboard and died. He did not die instantly, and I continued on because I do remember seeing, like, they think my car flipped, and I remember seeing airbags. Um, then at that point, I remember being like all the thing that like I didn't even know what happened. I just remember that when I was, when you're late, when your parents are going to get in trouble, when you're going to get in trouble because you're past curfew. That's how I felt because I had kids at home and I was already late with the babysitter. And so she has a husband and kids, and he's a state trooper, So I was like, oh, I gotta get home. And so I just kept going, and I was not of mind. I think the level of alcohol, like the that I blew, was 0.151. It was really intense. It was really, really high. So I just kept going, and once I got down Avalon Boulevard towards that intersection that was blinking yellow because it was really early in the morning, and my car stopped. And so I was trying to get it through the intersection, and people tried helping me and then asking where I was going and what's going on. And I guess my van looked a mess, and it didn't nothing registered. And I said, I just live right down here, right around the corner, so can you just help me push it? And they ended up calling the cops. The cops came, they asked me questions, they sat me down next to the car. I don't remember what they asked or, any of that. I just remember picking at the grass, telling them about how, I was going through a divorce and, I'm so upset. And I was crying a lot. And then I remember looking up, this is like the first real memory I have of it is, other than the airbags, is the car. I remember seeing the tire of the front of my van, and the whole front end was smashed in, and it clicked what I had done. And so I was very cooperative. I did end up going to jail, and then, so I got 11 and a half years sentenced for DUI manslaughter, hit and run. And that's kind of what, you know, where that led to. So.
So you get arrested. Do you initially get a bond for that?
Not at first. I had a $600,000 bond. I think it was $605,000. And I chose not to get bonded out because I felt like if I was that family and somebody had done that to my child, then I would have never wanted them to get out. And so
Yeah.
my family offered to pay it, and I didn't want to be a burden to anybody. I didn't want to use anybody's money. That's their hard-earned money.
Yeah.
There's a likelihood that I'm probably going to prison anyway. It just
Yeah.
doesn't make sense to do that, to waste.
Yeah.
And I think I will always beat myself up more than that family ever could for what I did, because I've always been a very compassionate, caring, loving person. I used to volunteer at, the old folks home. I did do volunteer work when I worked at Home Depot, at the hospital with the kids and making wooden cars with the company and, that sort of thing. And so knowing that I had done something that was so tragic, um, made me not want to live.
Mm.
And that when I was in county, when I first got locked up, I didn't even know that somebody had died until the officers had told me. And I had decided in the tank, I had decided that night, that this will be the last time I ever contemplate suicide. And I kept trying to find a reason to live. And the
Mm.
only thing I could think of, the only thing that really saved my life that night was my children, because I can never take something away from them that they need, even if I'm not the best parent.
Yeah.
And they're my kids. And so I felt like that would be very selfish. So that's the last time I've ever thought about it. And when I told myself, when I made that promise to myself, that would be it. But it
Yeah.
was very hard to find purpose other than that to continue to move forward in, well, why did it happen? Why did I do it? Why did I make these decisions? Why are these families now changed forever? I mean, he was in the military. He left behind two children. He was 33 years old. He had a wife, parents, siblings. It's
Yeah.
cruel.
So how old were your children at that time?
I believe they were 5, 6, and 7, so they were still really little.
So did the father get custody? Is he the one that was raising them during this time?
Yeah, because he wasn't the biological father of my first child, he did not get custody over her. He did raise them for like that first year while I was incarcerated. I almost did a full year in county before I went to prison. And he he got, for his first tour was in Iraq, his second one was in Afghanistan with the army. And so when he went over there, I decided, because he was a drunk and he was always, also drinking and driving, he I didn't want him to have custody over any of them, but I
Yeah.
could only control her. And so
Yeah.
I handed over temporary custody to my parents
Yeah.
until I got out. Mhm.
So when he took his tours to go out of the country, who were the kids with at that point?
My parents.
Your parents. So your parents pretty much raised them. So you go to prison. What is that like for you? Because obviously, even now, you still have emotion tied back to this, and so
Mhm.
you were obviously remorseful. You felt bad. What was it like for you? Knowing that I've got this prison sentence. Like when they told you the amount of time that you were going to serve, what did that feel like for you?
Oh God, I felt like life was over. Everybody should just move on. The kids need a new mom. Nobody should ever talk to me again. I've ruined everything.
Mm.
I ended up going back to the county jail, and the girls that were there. I went to the bathroom and fell on the floor in front of the toilet, and I couldn't even stand. I was hyperventilating, so some couple of the girls helped me to shower. Like they showered me in the shower, and the officer stood there watching. Normally, you're not allowed to do that, but she kind of let it happen because I think she knew that it was very, I couldn't even function. Cried for days. I had someone send in a picture of my victim, and I read every single letter that, was against me from his side of the family, as I deserved it, right? I deserved to hear those things. And I just remember like apologizing to him intensely, being able to actually look at his face. Um, I know that the family will never forgive me. They're very adamant about that once I got sentenced. For me, I've never felt like he doesn't, if that makes any sense. It's
Yeah.
really weird. And the only thing that somebody kind of explained to me was that it's almost like when souls meet like that, they have to make an agreement. And it kind of
Hmm.
made sense to me. I don't know why, but she
Yeah.
said that one has to stay and one has to go, and his chose to go and mine chose to stay. But maybe one life was taken so that thousands could be changed. And that's why I try to talk about it, because I feel like drinking and driving is something that I don't want, people doing, because I didn't know what I was, I mean, I didn't think about my actions before I did it. And these are the consequences. That it's not even just for me. When I was in prison, I didn't really, like, I missed my kids, but I didn't miss my kids because I still was here and I still had them.
Yeah.
I always mourned and cried a lot for what he didn't have, for what his family didn't have. They would never be able to sit around the Thanksgiving, table again with their dad, or decorating the Christmas tree, or, and that's kind of, I've always been really hard on myself, especially during like the first half of my incarceration, um, because I felt like I deserved to be punished. And so I would not allow myself certain things on Canteen. I wouldn't ask my family for packages. I wouldn't, I would starve a lot. I was more self-abusive, I guess, because I felt like I deserved the most, right? For the mistake that I had made. So that's kind of how I was very different from a lot of people, even with my charge in that sense. A lot of people just try to forgive and move on and, create a different life and apologize and these things. But I just really took it to heart. And it's hard living knowing that you have taken another breath, another soul,
Yeah.
unintentionally. I didn't mean to do it. So yeah, and it's still something that the reason why I get emotional is because I still feel that way today. It's still hard. I still struggle with survivor's guilt. It's just not fair. I should have been the one that was taken, and he should have been the one that got to stay because I'm the one that caused it, you know?
Yeah. I'm going to get back. I'm going to touch on that again in a minute. So the first part of your prison sentence, it sounds like you were very much dealing in, like self, you know, punishment. I'm punishing
Mhm.
myself on top of the punishment that I've received. At what point, or did you ever get to a point when you were incarcerated where you're like, I need to work on me, or I need to try to work through this? Like, I mean, you served a long time in prison. So what was
Mhm.
that? What did that look like in your day to day? I mean, how did you survive? How did you not go back? Even though you made a promise, I'm not going to contemplate suicide. It would be it wouldn't be unimaginable if you did, because of
Yeah.
the circumstances. You're feeling guilty. You've taken a life of someone. You don't even remember really doing it. And then now, I'm facing this. I've read these letters. I've seen his face. Like, how did you get through that?
Right. So the thought has still kind of occurred ever since then. It's just never become as prominent as like, oh, I'm gonna do it. I'm thinking of ways to do it. You know what I mean? Because once you learn something, you can't unlearn it. It's always forever a seed. And unfortunately, that's one of the things that will always be a seed, even now that I'm free. You know what I mean? Every time sometimes get hard and, let's take the easy route, then it's like, no, I remember what I'm fighting for. I made that promise to myself. That's why I made it a promise to
Yeah.
myself because I don't trust anybody more than I trust myself, right? So for me, I ended up trying to go get through my time on the right track. I joined the dog team, the Greyhound dog team, and then I did CCI for a while. So 3 years total out of my incarceration, the beginning, that's what I was doing. That really helped a lot because there was a lot of discipline that was involved. And by disciplining something else, but also loving it, you learn to kind of do that with yourself.
Hmm.
So for me, I guess I was more of like a free spirit and I kind of learned to be more tame. And that did help. I went to breaking bondage classes at the church. I went to the Most Excellent Way at the church. I did cosmetology, in the vocation program.
Hmm.
I went to AA voluntarily for 6 years, even though I don't have a problem with alcohol. It's just something that I used to do. And then, and of
Yeah.
course, people are going to think that because it's a drinking and driving incident that
Yeah.
happened. And but I felt like I almost owed it to everybody to either speak up on what I had gone through and give my testimony to try to help either change or save lives or learn something. And you can always learn something in every situation that you go through. Um, so I went to Celebrate Recovery, I went to NA, I did like a lot of these kind of programs to try to keep myself on the track of being good. And I didn't even spend one day in confinement. So I have never, gone to lock. I always tried doing what I could. I had a good rapport with the officers, with the inmates around the compound. I stayed at the same facility the whole time. And then, when I got out, I moved forward. I hit the ground running, and tried to keep your sanity. I think somewhere in the middle, I kind of lost my niceness, my naive mind, and I became a little more assertive. And I was not going to take people's crap because I was tired of people that are around me and the things that they talk about and how rude they are. I was bullied a couple of times, that sort of thing. And you just kind of learn to survive.
Yeah. So, how long ago did you get out? When were you
Three
released?
years.
So,
On
you've been
February
home
10th, it was
3 years.
3 years.
So, when you first got out, what was your first initial feeling? What did you go to your parents' house initially?
No, they came to pick me up down in St. Pete in Bradenton.
Hmm.
And then the next day or that, yeah, we spent the night at a hotel and then the next day I flew out on an airplane to Arizona and I had gotten an interstate compact agreement so I could live there with my grandma until I could get on my feet. And I stayed with her for I think like 2.5 months and I took my work because I had gone to work release for a year. So I took my money that I had saved and I paid her, rent every month. She kept telling me not to, but I she's paying now for my food, and they had flown my daughter out so my daughter could live with me because my ex-husband got custody over my boys. So I don't have custody over them. And we got to live together and kind of just start off fresh. And I got a job as a dog groomer. I had never groomed before, ever.
Mm,
Yeah, and I had told her I'm sorry, I've been to prison. I don't know if you'll hire me. And she was like, no, it's not a big deal. We don't care. We'll give you a second chance. And that I think was the most helpful thing. And if I could show anybody what the takeaway from all of this conversation with you would be, please do not drink and drive, but people who want to change can, and they just need the opportunity. We all need a second chance at
yeah.
life, to make it right. And sometimes people will fail. And sometimes they'll fail a million times until they get it right that last time, right?
Yeah.
But for me, she had been without a groomer for a while, and I was like, I don't know how to groom dogs. She goes, we'll just start you off with bathing. Maybe you can watch a bunch of YouTube videos and figure it out. And I'm really hands-on. I'm really creative and good at figuring things out. So we agreed to that. And then within a month and a half, I was grooming dogs with everything that I had learned. And she already had the tools there and everything. And the people were saying I was better than the 20-year groomer that had been doing it previously to me. And she was out, her wrist was broken. And so it was a compliment.
Yeah.
Um, and I loved it. And then, then we moved here to Idaho. And so now I live here and worked at another grooming place down here, but then just as a bather until I could work my way up. And then I just decided to go to college. So now I'm going to college to become a project manager.
Okay. So how old was your daughter when she came to live with you at your grandmother's house?
She was 17.
How was that relationship?
Oh, it was really good. She ended up moving back to where my parents were in North Carolina because my parents used to live in Florida until they moved during my incarceration to North Carolina. And she moved back there because she really missed her boyfriend. She
Yeah.
had a life, and so to uproot her from that, I had flown her back to visit family and friends and, her boyfriend, and twice. And the second time she asked if she could just not come back. And she said, it's not because of you. I love you. We've been dreaming about being together all these years. It's just she missed everything that she was raised around. And what kind of parent would I be to say, no, I'm free now. We're going to change your life. Like
Yeah.
I already ruined your life by not being there. You guys grew up without a mom. She now then, because we got divorced, the only dad she did know was gone. She's raised
Mhm.
by her grandparents. She can't see her brothers, but every so often, whenever he allows it, it's like, yeah, everybody's lives were just kind of completely changed. And the more that I feel like I can just try to make things easier for everybody else, I'll do the changing because I've adapted to learning how to do that. Then I try.
Yeah. So what is your relationship now like with all of your kids?
So she and I talk like 2 to 7 times a day. we
Okay.
we have this thing. My schedule's more flexible than hers, so she'll just call me, and it's good because in prison I was the only one who could call. So for me, I
Yeah.
don't like making calls. I would rather you just call me or text me, and I will be the first one to respond, right? And so I love it. And then my second child, my second born, he actually is here now. So he chose to come and live with me for a little while, and that's exciting. And just kind of getting him on track. And he's 18, so he
Hmm.
could, his
Yeah.
dad didn't tell him no or anything. But so he's been here for 2 months already, and it's been very interesting because in my mind, I think I left off when they were kids, really little, and now it's like a whole adult, and I'm trying to figure out my bearings, right? So my third child, he doesn't have any memories of me prior to prison.
Mhm.
And so he doesn't speak to me. I'm
Um,
just the person that he calls mom. I've never been mom. And it's not for the lack of trying. I used to send them letters all the time, calling them, trying to, bridge that gap, make things funny. I would make things funny in the letters. But his dad kept them away for like 3 years until we actually got the divorce finalized. And then he had to bring them, but then when COVID happened, because I did, had COVID in prison, that's a whole different experience. And then he stopped bringing them after that. So I think 5 to 6 years out of my incarceration, I was not allowed to see my boys. So that was
mhm.
difficult. Then it's like mourning a little bit of a loss of not even having my children there. But then again, like I said before, they're still alive, they're still being taken care of, it's fine. So, you know,
Yeah. So who is Brianna today?
today I'm more, I think, confident. I'm more wanting to help people. That's that's what makes me feel like not that it was worth something, because it's worth it, the everything was lost, so it was worth nothing. But if I could try to bring some kind of goodness to his memory, then I think the best way to do that would just be to do the best that I can do in life. So maybe he can live vicariously through me, but also so that I can help others and set them on that right path, that trajectory of doing good things and changing your life, and that's what I'm trying to do. And in order to do that, you have to lead by example. So I'm trying to change my own, by getting an education and still parenting and reaching out and doing everything that I can do to do that. So,
Yeah. Have you ever considered reaching out to his family?
we had a no contact order.
Okay.
So I'm not allowed to.
Yeah. Is there a part of you that wishes that you could have that conversation? Like, let's just say they listen to this podcast. What would you say to them?
When I had written them letters of apology in the beginning when I was in county, they used it against me in court, because I kept saying, I'm sorry. If I was sober, I never would have done this. They said that I was very selfish in using the word I. Today, it all applies. Everything that I said before is still the same now, because I truly, genuinely am sorry. I didn't do it on purpose. I was trying to get home to my children. I was really out of my mind. I made a huge mistake. I did do it. That's what I'm accountable for. I never denied otherwise. And I can't even apologize. All I can do, and I can't fix it, I can't make it right. So all I can do is try to set some kind of example, right? Because if I
Yeah.
just do nothing and I sit on it, then who benefits from this?
Yeah.
Nobody does. And this is such a tragic thing that happened. And unfortunately, I caused it. So I want to do whatever I can. And if I have to spend the rest of my life giving my testimony, as uncomfortable as it is, as emotional as it makes me, whatever the case is, I'm willing to do that to try to set things on the right path
Yeah.
for whoever it may apply to. I wish that they could do that with me. That's something that I do wish, is that we could do it together, knowing that they lost somebody, that I'm you know what I mean? I've seen people who do that and go and they talk at conventions, and I wish that that's something that we could do to bring more of an awareness to, what happened, and honor the memory of their son more, you know.
Yeah. Yeah. So you said something that I want to touch on earlier into the podcast, and we were discussing kind of forgiveness and healing.
Yes.
And I want to ask you, like, what type of work have you done on you to like forgive yourself or to for you to heal from what has went on? Because it sounds like you feel like you never will really forgive yourself.
It's hard. I cannot explain it. So even during my incarceration, I would go to church. I would try to forgive myself. And it's something about that I've learned is not, you just say it and then you do it and then it's fixed. It's something you actually have to continue to practice all the time, because you will always need to keep forgiving, right? So
Mhm.
in those moments where I go back into that uh, survivor's guilt, that's where I need to try to do it the most, but I'm too busy feeling that hardship of it all. One of the things that I did when I was in prison is we were allowed to have journals sent in, and so I created stuff in mine, and then I had rules to my journal. This is going to sound crazy, but how most people, when they are upset, they journal in their, and then they put like all the bad stuff that they're feeling, right? For me, I didn't really do that. It was when I'm going through it, that's the only time I can write in my journal, or I can read from what I've written previously in my journal. And what I did was I wrote something positive about myself to myself, because I trust myself the most, right? And that is, if you are in the middle of feeling completely horrible, right, for what I've done, then that is the hardest time to say something good and positive to that inner child to try to fix it. But that's, I think, I think that's kind of what set me on the path of trying to move forward and doing it, to just becoming more forgiving of myself. And so when I go through and I read it, there's all this nice stuff like, you are loved, you are kind, you are giving, you know what I mean? But when I did it, it took hours to write it, because I didn't want to write those things about myself when I'm trying to
Mhm.
beat myself up for what I did, right? So
Mhm.
it's kind of, and then I could only read from it when I was feeling down, so I could trust my own words. And it worked. It
Yeah.
started on the path of realizing I could retrain the way that I think. I can try to figure out a way to deal with, what I've done. And since I've gotten out, I have seen a therapist. I feel like I've heard everything that this therapist has told me from everybody else since it happened.
Mhm.
And I can't seem to move past it. I think it's more of something spiritual that I need to work on. So that's kind of where I'm at now, is trying to figure out how to spiritually do that. So I've just been dabbling in a couple of different things, which I'll kind of keep private at the moment,
Yeah.
but I do feel like that's where it's at, because it's such a deep thing. It's not like I just
Yeah.
robbed a store and I feel guilty. It's somebody's life was taken, and
Yeah.
that's a really heavy burden to carry on my soul.
It is. So I actually am a licensed plant medicine facilitator.
Really?
And
That's so
yes,
cool.
yes. So I take people on spiritual journeys and I do inner child healing work with people and I do hypnotherapy work with people. And
Yeah.
I actually just got done taking a class around nervous system work.
Yeah.
And what I learned is that in all the years that people go and they do, journey after journey after journey, and I don't know if you've done one. It sounds like maybe you've something that you might have looked into, but the ones that I do, I've done them with psilocybin. That's my go-to. I've not done ayahuasca. I don't necessarily feel called to ayahuasca, but I have facilitated it and I have taken psilocybin for years to unpack my own childhood trauma, my own lifetime trauma, and my own bad choices. And in that, what I learned from this nervous system class is that you can go on all the journeys and you can get the moment of healing or the information and you have the aha moment, but you can't really integrate it, and it's because your nervous system stores the trauma, and keeps you basically hiding behind that so that you never can fully like really integrate what you have going on or the work that you've done, because the nervous system keeps score.
Yeah.
The vagus nerve keeps score. And so for anybody that's watching or listening, if you're finding yourself in this situation, or you've been in a similar situation of Brianna or myself, and you're like, you know what, I really like, I want to change, like I want to put this weight down, I want to stop carrying this, I want to feel better about myself, please reach out. I actually have not been overly vocal about that work that I do, because it is very personal to me, number
Yeah.
one. And number two, it's like kind of like coming out of the closet, like, oh,
Right.
hey, I do this, and, people have a certain way that they look at those types of things, especially in the South.
Yeah.
They're like, oh, that's blasphemy. Actually, it's not,
Yeah.
it brought me closer to God than I've ever been. And
Yes.
so, I do have a program actually that I am about to launch, and I would love to have you in this program. It's called Reborn, and basically it's about rebirthing you. It's
I like
about
it.
getting back to the you, or recreating the you that you have abandoned due to shame and guilt and all of the things. And so, ironically, right before you logged on, and I didn't know any of your story because I don't
Right.
I don't dive into the people before they come on the podcast, because I want to hear it firsthand information. I want to do my own research.
I love that.
So I was actually recording a video talking about Reborn and kind of why, I created this. And basically it came from a dream that I had after a spiritual journey.
Yeah.
And in that dream, I was pregnant. But when the baby was born, I wasn't there for the birth. Now, how crazy does that sound? So I'm like, yeah, what? This doesn't make sense. But in the dream, I screamed, "That's my baby. I should have been there." And then I woke up. And when I woke up, what God told me about that dream was that the baby, it wasn't actually a child, it was me. And it was the part of myself that I had been abandoning. And this was tied to my rebirth and my new identity, and just that I had been abandoning myself for years. And so from that journey and that dream, I really started to go in within and look at some things, and I created this whole program called Reborn, and it is for women. And it's basically what it sounds like. It's like, hey, I'm going to rebirth myself, because
Yeah.
I don't want to feel this way. I made a bad choice. I made a bad mistake, and I do feel guilty, and I carry that every single day, and I don't want to carry that anymore,
Right.
because I want to move forward, and I want to be able to move forward even if the family never forgives me and I never get that moment to sit with them or have a conversation with them, or to because that's really for you. Like
Right.
you want that. They may not
Right.
ever want that, and maybe they will, but at the end of the day, that's something that we create within ourselves that says, I need this in order to move on. No, I don't need this in order to move on because I served my time. I've put myself through years of imprisoned in my mind, even beyond the prison sentence. I'm still
Right.
living with this. You deserve to be whole. You deserve to heal. You deserve to let that go because you know what? Yeah, you made a bad choice. We all make bad choices.
Hmm.
90% of the people that I know, maybe even 100% of the people that I know at some point has drink and driven in their
Yeah.
life. And does it make it okay? No,
No.
it doesn't. Is it a sad thing that happened? Is it unfortunate? Yes. Was a life taken? Yes. But you know what? You were saved and it's for a reason. And it's not for
Right.
you to spend the rest of your life feeling bad and
Right.
feeling sad and feeling guilty because you know what? You served your prison sentence. So
Yeah.
it's time for your prison sentence in your mind to end. Walk out the door. And I hope if you want, I would love nothing more than to help you walk through that door. I've done it with many different women and men because I life coach both, but I
Yeah.
would love to help facilitate that for you in some way, shape, form, or fashion because I can see the light in you and I can see that you are genuine in what you say. Like, I really felt bad about what I did. And you know what? That family may want to convict you for the rest of your life. They may want to see you be miserable for the rest of your life. But if the shoe were on the foot and the roles were reversed, and it
Hmm.
was the husband that had driven and hit you and you died, they
Right.
would want him at some point in his life to have peace, to find joy again
Right.
because they love him. And so in that same way that they would want that for them, my prayer, my call out to God, to the universe is that if they ever see this podcast, if they ever just in a moment they can have a realization or a thought of that, to see it from a different lens, to take off the anger glasses, the grief glasses, the hurt glasses, and say, you know what? She made a mistake
Hmm.
and she paid the price for that mistake because you have.
Well, and it's still ongoing. It's not, I mean, yeah, I served the time, but there are still consequences that go on after a time of sentencing is done. You know what I mean?
Yeah,
So there's still my son isn't talking to me. There are still a lot of things that I still work through that I'm like, oh, when I thought when I got out, everything was just going to be fine,
yeah,
and it's not. And to
yeah,
learn to cope through that and keep knowing that this is just another part of what happened because of what I chose to do, that's I think where that it still exists. It's not like, oh, well, since I've served my time, I can just forgive myself and move on.
no,
It's more so now I have to continue accepting the consequences of my actions
yeah,
and trying my hardest to just move forward.
yeah. Does the sentence ever end? In your
Right?
opinion, I ask everybody this, does it
I don't think
end?
it will. Yeah, I think I will deal with this for the rest of my life, but maybe my curse can be a gift. Maybe because I feel so strongly about it the way that I do, maybe it can help the next person so that they don't have to go through something that I did, you
Yeah,
know? And so
yeah,
maybe it's what drives me forward to try to help people and give the testimony and whatever. And if that's the burden I have to carry, well, that's because I created it.
yeah. Yeah. I see for you that at some point in your life, you're going to have some sort of group and leading that group, helping people to move beyond what they did.
I
And
hope so.
it's coming in your life and when it does come, it's going to be the most beautiful and amazing thing.
Thank
And
you.
it will come once you allow yourself to really forgive yourself and to
Right.
really heal because you do deserve that.
Thank you.
And there is a world of people out there that have made the same mistake.
I
Some
agree.
that are still incarcerated, some that are out but mentally incarcerated, some that may never went to get incarcerated because they didn't get caught.
Yeah, I agree.
But they need someone. They need someone that has walked through what you have walked through and made it out because you don't look like what you've been through and you don't
Right.
sound like what you've been through. And you're sitting here on this podcast with me. And had I not known, I never would have known that you're carrying what you're carrying. And
Hmm.
I say this to people all the time is that I really try in my life to not judge people and to not be mean or ugly, even when someone is like mean or ugly to me, because you just never know what someone is carrying. You
Mhm.
never know what is behind their mask.
Yeah.
And most of the world is walking around with a mask on because they don't know how to take it off.
Right.
And so I hope in your journey, my desire and my call out and my prayer is that you can forgive yourself and that you walk into the life that you so deeply deserve because you are worthy of it, no
Thank
matter what you
you.
did. So that is my message
Well,
to
thank you for
you.
having me here.
Yeah, no, you're welcome. Thank you so much for coming on. But that is my message, not only just to you, but to anybody that's listening or that's watching that feels like I did something that I don't deserve
Yeah.
forgiveness, or I don't deserve this life, or I don't deserve anything good, because you do. You
Yeah.
do. Because you made a bad choice. We all make bad choices.
Right.
I am so thankful that I only went to prison for what I went to prison for.
Hmm.
Because good Lord, if I went to prison for what I could have went to prison for, I'd probably still be there, you know?
Yeah.
So it's like, man, if you're watching this and you've made a bad choice and you cannot forgive yourself, or someone else has done something that you feel as unforgivable, everybody deserves forgiveness, because at the end of the day, it could have been you that made the choice. It could be you that wakes up tomorrow and or you get off of work and you're tired from driving and you accidentally kill someone. It's
Right.
sober. And you could still, you took a life. So
Yeah.
my desire is the world that we stop being so judgmental and start to have a little bit more empathy and compassion for everyone around us, because we just don't know what people are carrying. We don't know what they've been through, what their childhood looked like that
Right.
had them become who they are today. Oprah wrote a book with a psychiatrist, and the book is called What Happened to You. And the entire book is around, instead of saying to somebody, "What is wrong with you?" It's
Hmm.
what happened to you.
Yeah.
What happened to you that made you who you are, that made you feel like you have to show up this way?
Right. Well, and that's why I had mentioned the program as a leading into what happened, because I think that's where the guilt comes from a lot of, where I
Mm,
was sent away and not wanted at home.
yep.
And so that's, and then to not have family there and you have to do these things in order to earn our love back or whatever,
Yeah.
it just became, I think that's what the whole, I mean, because there was so much that happened that whole year.
Oh,
I think
yeah.
that's what started
Oh,
it.
for sure. And for sure. And most people with where they are as an adult, the things that have made them into who they are, it's from their childhood.
Yeah.
That's why I'm really big on inner child healing. My first session that I ever did before I got into plant medicine was an alchemy therapy and inner child healing session, and it was under hypnosis. And so I
That's
actually
so
do
cool.
that with my clients now. It was phenomenal.
Yeah.
And, and I'm one of these type people that I'm really skeptical about stuff, especially like that type of stuff, or at least I used to be, because it's like, it does that really work? You
Right.
see the Miss Cleos and all that on TV, and like, is this real? It is real. I'm here to tell you, it is real. I experienced it myself. I now take my clients on these journeys. They've
Right.
experienced it. And there's something to be said for that, because it's like you can spend the rest of your life, if you want, being the way that you are and
Yeah.
waking up every day and feeling the way that you feel. Or you can wake up today and you can say, you know what? I don't want to feel like this anymore. I don't want to experience this anymore. I want to have joy in my life. I
Yeah.
want to genuinely wake up and smile
Yeah.
every day. I'm tired of being tired.
Yeah.
I'm tired of being sad. I'm tired of being angry. And we all have the ability to do that. And some people will say, well, that's what church is for. Well, you know what? I disagree.
Yeah.
If church is your vehicle and that's the thing that gives you the most peace, by all means go to church. I
Yeah.
have never judge anyone for what their belief system is. But if you're going to church and you're still waking up mad, angry, and feeling full of guilt every single day, you need to go somewhere else. Not
Yeah.
leave the church, but you need
And
to look
everybody's
into
path of healing looks
therapy.
different for everybody.
Everybody's path of healing is different. And the one thing that in the class that I took about the nervous system stuff that they were talking about is how in talk therapy, it's good to do, talk therapy because you at least get it off your chest.
Right.
But talk therapy can only take you so far because the nervous system is holding on to what you can't let go of. So you
Yeah.
got to do these exercises and get in to be able to calm your nervous system, walk yourself back into that memory and sit with it, observe it, and allow yourself to release it. And that's hard because now I
Yeah.
got to sit and I have to really sit with that and really do the work in it. But man, it is so worth it. It is
Right.
so worth it. So I am so proud of you and I'm proud of what you've overcome and I'm proud of where you're going because it's a beautiful journey is right in front of you and I fully see it.
Thank you
And
so
I
much.
hope that I get to witness it in some way. So, yes, message for the viewers, message to the world. If there's one thing that you could tell somebody today, what is it?
You are not alone in the way that you're feeling because most of us have either thought it, tried it, want to try it, whatever it is. And I mean, you're going to relate to somebody. And in that, I reach out and try to find ways of being able to get through things, people's stories, testimonies. For example, this one, because we're all alike in very similar ways, and you can apply any situation to your own life. And that maybe somebody can learn something from my mistakes.
Yeah. Yeah. Thank you so much for sharing that. Thank you for being brave enough to have the courage to come on here and share your story and what
Thank
you've
you.
been through and what you're still experiencing. And guys, that is wrapping up this Fenced In podcast episode today. Don't forget to like, subscribe, comment, and share for more content like this. And one last final thought, no darkness can outshine the light within. Jennifer Rogers signing off with the Fenced In podcast.